while
you,
I was
Martha.
here.
I thought you were going to do that, actually.
Yeah, I
The
was
three
going
of
to go
you.
home, but anyway, but I was fine.
That's it. Sorry.
No, so it's interesting what she said about, obviously, if you come here, you don't know if this is part of this work is being made for by the same artist, isn't it? The photography and this is like kind of unrelated. But I do think it kind of works together, I think, but that wasn't my plan. The thing is that I've always worked with photography, but I studied fine arts. So actually I specialized in drawing, and I had to, when I studied, I had to go through all the mediums, and I enjoyed all of them. And then I did a master's in photography, and I started working with photography and exhibiting. And I've done that for most of my short career, I would say. But I never stopped doing my drawing or my sculpting. It's just that I never really exhibited that. And then I gave myself a period of 6 months to a year to focus just on the sculpture to see what I could develop. And then I started focusing on that. And then I think probably at some point my photography and my sculpture will kind of interact more and more. But for the moment, this is my work and this is what I've done before. So yeah. So I think it would be too much to speak about everything. So I think I will just concentrate, focus on this, and maybe just like a general view of the photography work. So yeah. So the medium I work with is felt, so wool, and well, I don't know if you have ever touched or worked with touched felt or worked with felt, or you know what it is, I guess. So yeah, you can buy it already compressed, like in sheets and layers, or you can buy the wool basically, and then you can dye it yourself, or you can buy it already dyed with the colors. So I do both. Sometimes I add the color myself, and sometimes I just get the colors already dyed. So yeah, and basically the way I work is, so I will talk a bit more about the process, and then maybe we can just talk about all the ideas behind it. But yeah, so the way I work is I basically create the skeleton of the sculpture like any other sculpture would need. Like if you use clay or something like that. So obviously you need to create the skeleton, well, using whatever you need to use, wire or wood or however you do it. In my case, it depends on the size of the sculpture. Yeah, so once it's solid, I create the body with, I used felt as well at the beginning, but it's a bit of a waste of material. And also, in terms of preservation, it's better for me to use some kind of, well, I use some kind of acrylic felt, let's say. It's made with recycled bottles, so it's just cheaper.
It's a bit like fleece, or is it?
It's a bit like, to be honest, it looks, when you touch it, it looks like, it feels like the cushion filler.
Oh, okay.
It feels like it. So it's very similar. It's just I use that material because they sell it in the shop where I buy the felt, and it's a bit of a material for anything, whatever you think you can do. Yeah, and it's just easier to create the shape with it for me.
The felt is just a layer there of the outside.
Exactly, the felt is the layer of the outside. Okay. And it's, that's it. I mean, at the beginning when I started, obviously I started making little figures, and then I would just use glue, but that wasn't the way I wanted to proceed. Actually, it sounds funny, but I got the idea of covering I don't think I told you this, never. I got the idea of covering the
Yes.
felt with, I think I told you maybe.
Maybe, yes.
With the sculpture with felt like this, because I when I was studying, I used to work decorating cakes with icing. So I don't know if you've ever done it, but I used to fascinate me because I remember I was like, how is this cake being made? Because it's not, in Spain we don't have that kind of dessert, but here, you know. And then so when I started working for this woman who basically created like dessert tables for weddings and things like that, and I had to help her out and decorate the cakes. And essentially that's how you do it. You make the cake and then any crazy shape you want, and then you have to roll the icing, and you can make colors and gravings and everything, and then put it on top and adapt it. And so it's a very serious process. So you never know where you're gonna get your influences.
I didn't know that I was related to cakes.
It's really related, and I really want to work
Well,
with
sculpture and cooking are close.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think there's lots of similarities. actually.
it is, yeah, definitely.
Things set, you know. Sometimes things are a liquid, and other times you're adding different stuff together to make your food.
It's true, yeah, totally. And then when it comes to something like a dessert, you want it to be visually attractive. And so yeah,
So let me ask you, Martha, how do you contain the?
the
So
shape.
this is quite solid, okay?
Yes.
Right. So you've got this squidgy material.
Mm-hmm.
How does it become compacted? Do you
Yes.
just keep pressing
To
it together?
keep it.
This is also
Yeah.
my question, how the skeleton
Yeah.
is done.
I think it's better if I show you a little video, because maybe when you stop recording, I can show them a little video
Okay.
on my phone. So basically, and I don't have the tools with me otherwise. So let's say you have that material, and have you ever done needle felting, or have you ever seen? Okay, so what you use is a needle. Well, you don't use just one needle, you use maybe 4 or 5. And that needle, there are different sizes and thicknesses for it. So the needle has like incisions, and then what happens is when you stab with the needle on your material, and then when you pull it out, so you have to kind of, that's the movement you have to do all the time to compress it, like let's say stabbing the material, poking it, and then every time you pull the needles out, those little incisions or teeth, I don't know how to, it kind of grabs pull the fibers in and out somehow, and then what you are doing essentially is making the fibers
You're
kind of
mixing them.
mixing them, they tangle up together somehow. So slowly the material, let's say there is less air between the fibers.
It felts.
It felts. That's the process of felting. Exactly, it felts. Yeah. Because the other process of felting is wet felting. Wet felting is, I mean, it's a very, very ancient process. I mean, people have used felt, I don't know, like since they have ships and stuff, because you know, it's a very warm. It's great for winter. I mean, of course, it's like it keeps the warmth. So. And the wet felting, and I've done it in the past, but I don't think I feel more comfortable with the needle felting. But with wet felting, what you do is like you have your felt, the glue, and you can obviously blend colors, whatever you want. And then what you do is you soak it in water with soap. Soap?
Yeah.
Is that what I say? Soap? Yeah. And then this is the rough idea. You rub it, and and then the soap, what it does is it takes the grease or the fat that's in the fiber, and it helps the fibers to kind of stay together somehow. And then the more you rub it, the more it helps as well. And then you just you get rid of the soap, you let it dry, and you have your piece of felt. But it's a different process. But yeah, so I use the needles. And then once you have the skeleton, you have to find your own way. But let's say I create, if you want to say so, I create like the muscles of the body somehow. This one is more like, it has a simple shape, but like I studied anatomy, human and animal anatomy or drawing, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a meaningful experience for my work, because like I'm capable of creating, let's say, fantasy creatures without really looking at, you know, because they kind of, the movement looks more realistic.
Yeah.
So I imagine, okay, so these are the hips, okay, so this is this muscle, this is, and then I kind of create, let's say with the needles, all the parts of the body, and then I attach them together, put it together somehow.
So,
you know?
so it's put together as a series of pieces.
Yes.
And then you kind of felt those pieces
Exactly.
together.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, I have more control over it.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Yeah.
Oh,
And does that then, when you're then working it after it's on there, are you also then joining it to this understructure of fabric, fibres that's inside it?
You mean
So you're filling
Mhm.
the thing used to bulk out the shape. As you felt the outside, are you also helping to bond the skin of it to that as well?
Well, what happens is you would have this piece all white,
Yeah.
and then I blend the colors of the wool. I use like a brush or something like combs. They sell it to carve the wool, but you can use something like what you use for cats or something like that. It's very similar. And then so I start with this blue, and then I blend this blue with 30% of this blue, and then with 40%, 20, 10, and then I keep. It's basically
It's numerical.
numerical mathematics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. Until I get to the almost white or whatever I want to. And then here I carry on, and then I start mixing it with pink, and you know, that's it. And so it's a bit like painting, it feels a bit like painting. If you want.
Yes.
And then I have like let's say, imagine a skin, like it's a bit like taxidermy as well. And I literally, well, this would be lie down, so I put the skin on top of it, and then that's what I do with my hand. I kind of follow the shape, and then with the needle, I attach it to the body.
Right.
That would
So
be
that's it. It's attaching itself to
Exactly.
your substructure as you.
Yes.
So it's following your contours.
So I don't use glue, nothing like that.
No.
Nothing to attach it to the skeleton either. Like the process of felting is just, and I quite like that actually. Yeah.
And what about the faces?
The faces, I use recycled vintage items and anything that I find, anything. If I had a massive warehouse, it would be full of random I don't have it. No, but yeah, I also, like, I photograph antiques as well for an art textile. And I just really like the history behind the objects. It's very, you know, the anecdotes, like where was this found, you know, or where does it come from, or who. And the idea of just reusing that is just something that I find it, you know, fascinating. I really like. And of course, I love modeling with clay as well. But I just found this process really, I don't know, very. It has more mystery for me, and it's, you know, because also I have, you know, let's say, I don't know, 50 heads, or I keep buying all the time, whenever I find them. Yeah. Or someone gives them to me, or you know, and you know, they tell me something. You know, if I'm imagining a character in this case, and I had, was part of the process. I had these two with the eyes closed, and they were the perfect size for the piece. Like one is slightly smaller, and that gives me ideas, you know, as well. So I will keep working with this for a while, and then yeah, I'm modeling faces and other shapes, but for the time being, I like this process.
Yeah, I think it's also a dry process, isn't it? Apart from when you're applying colour.
Yes.
You're not waiting for something to set.
Exactly.
You know, it's an ongoing
Yeah.
construction.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which must be really nice. Actually.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, I have worked, for instance, in a workshop where we did. Well, the company, they make props for movies or for things like that. So I learned how to make, you know, casts and resin and silicone molds and stuff. And it's great, but I don't know, you have to work on stages, like, okay, I make this, I make the mold, I cast it, then I really like that, but because it was the way I started working on this was quite impulsive somehow, and because I had all those heads for no reason, because I had them there because I loved them, I had just like 5 or 10, no more, but now I was like, oh my god, this is like great, and then it's great, super fun. It's super fun as well, and yeah, it's dry. It's a dry process as well, and it's more immediate or something.
How do you connect the heads with the whole body?
Yeah, that's important.
You don't glue?
No, I mean normally the skeleton would go here, and I sort of insert the head, and normally I fill it with this same material, you know, the wool or that material that takes the shape inside the head, so it's not wobbly. And then so it would have wire that, and I normally, you know, maybe finish it in a round shape or something. I put it in, and I somehow, I don't normally use glue. And then the thing is that of course around the head you have this felted piece of wool, but it holds this there. It holds the head. It doesn't need glue. And yeah, so I basically create like a layer of felt, slightly thick, and I just literally wrap it around, and I start just needling, like poking with the needle around until it gets the right shape and the right size for the face to show. And I don't use glue or anything. I don't like it. I mean, I find it, I don't know. Also, the reason is also the fact that when you don't use glue or anything like that, or as you said, nothing has to get dry. If something dries, there's no way around it. You cannot just add, maybe you can add more, isn't it? But I like the fact that it's kind of soft, and if I want to, and I have made the skeleton right as I want it to, I can slightly change the shape, and it's more organic, because at the end, you know, it's like if I want to change the shape of the neck or and those last touches I can do them because I don't use glue. It's more.
You're not committed.
Exactly, and at the end when it's perfectly, you know, everything is how I want it, then I work it. I make it more solid and less flexible. Like now it would be difficult to change the pose, but until the last minute I have choices to model. Yeah. So this is more or less how I do it.
Marta, this particular sculpture, you call this Tartaros journey.
Oh,
I think it's quite important if you tell us something more about the Tartaros journey.
Oh, yeah,
tell us something maybe more about
because,
the idea behind this particular piece of work.
Yeah, it's true, it's important as well. Well, I got the idea from, I of course I have inspiration from other artists, or like everyone does, but so there is this artist, Leonora Carrington. She's English, but I think she lived in Mexico most of her life, and she was a surrealist, if you want to say that, and as many other surreal female painters or artists, I think my work relates to those works as well, very much. More than male for some reason, I don't know why, and it's very interesting because I think their work was maybe more intimate somehow, because also they weren't really famous when they were alive. They would be around the artists' crowd and talks, but they wouldn't really be. I think they were just there somehow, but their work was more introspective, and I think it makes sense. If you're not so exposed, I think it makes sense. Anyway, so she talks about she draws a lot of horses. She used to. It's just like something that was in her memories when she was a child, and she also wrote short stories. and it's like fantasy stories. And then there was one about a girl who had these toys, and there was this horse, and I think it was one of those horses that balanced, like moved back and forth, and that's it. And it was called Tartaro, and it escaped or something, you know, from the room. And I was just thinking of the ways he draws the horses. The shapes are quite not realistic, really. They are very round as well, and he used gradient colors as well. And I was like, yeah, I just had the idea. I started developing the idea for the piece after reading that. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna call it Tartaro, that's it. And then this tiny little thing is an addition. It's more like, it's not really, I don't think it's I think for me it's more like the consciousness or something. It's not really like another creature. I think it's sort of attached to it, like always, like it's always carry this thing there.
So this is like a part of an individual.
Like a part of
As another part of the
It
individual.
reminded me of an alpaca.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
both of them.
Yeah, I mean it's not a horse. Sorry, as you can see.
But it's more like an alpaca, no?
Yeah.
With hands.
Yeah. It's not, it's just, of course it's not a horse, but because I started developing
Sure.
the idea from,
Someone told me yesterday that this small attachment, it could be, it looks like a small devil in
It could
each
be,
one
yeah.
of us.
yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
because
I thought it was a baby, but it's not, because it's not the same species, no? There's no hands,
no,
and the
Yeah.
color is completely different.
But I thought like it was a bit like an MeiMei of the species. Because the gazelle have like, it doesn't have like horns, and a MeiMei has horns.
Yeah.
It's true.
it's a bit, well, you know,
Because of her baby.
I mean,
I mean, you've given it red horns.
yeah, that's something. I mean, it's quite, I definitely wanted to create sort of a mischievous